Welcome to Leadership Week. Throughout this week we talk a lot about team spirit and importance of the team. And today is a Friday, that's a good news, and I would like to wrap up this Leadership Week with one very important question. And the question is, how do I know that I'm a good team leader for my team? Let me introduce with my guests. Kaspars Fedorovs, Latvian head of Latvia operations. Paula Zviedriņa, head of integration. Stuart William Bradley, head of service management and customer support, and Reinis Krūmiņš, operation manager, Latvia now, right? Welcome here. Thank you that you have repeat my invitation that you will join our discussion. And I would like to ask you, did you have a chance to join any trainings this week, Leadership Week, any of you?
Yeah, there was a great selection of the trainings. Fortunately, our calendar and the business planning this week was crazy, but I did read the agenda and appreciate for your efforts bringing in these people, but I couldn't join this week, sorry.
Unfortunately, I couldn't join most of them either because I was on vacation, just returned yesterday, but I did join the one which we had yesterday with Peter, and it was great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I joined the first one, which was the UEFA coach that we brought in to talk. So that was really interesting, making those comparisons. So it's nice that we've kind of stepped outside the boundaries of our little world and brought some other people in. So that was really cool. Thank you.
So sadly, I was not able to join. However, I really appreciate these happening. And the last time we had these, I joined. Was in Sweden this week, so was quite cramped up week, as Kaspars mentioned, for our calendars. But yeah, a big fan of those. A big fan.
But don't worry, I will give you all the sites for all recordings. Also for you, I will send an email and you can afterwards watch all the sessions and trainings. It was really valuable for us, and I have a very good feedback from each of team and departments different. Okay, let's start. And my first question for you is, how long have you been working as a people manager? Those who have a mics, maybe Paula, you will start.
Yeah. I've been a people manager for, I think, 4 or 5 years now. Something like that. Yeah.
Uh-huh. It's within Evolution or in general?
Yes, within Evolution. Before that, I wasn't a people manager.
Oh, okay,
So,
nice.
yeah,
Thank
just
you.
with Evolution.
Yeah, Reinis, maybe you?
So for me, I'm just counting in my head how long I have been working here. And it's almost 7 years, actually, since I first became manager, some sort of. And then quite long period, I would say, right? In various different roles. Yeah, but 7. Hard to say this number because it feels a lot already.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Kaspars?
It's 9 years as a people manager. Similar to you, I became people manager when I joined Evolution. Before that, it was more a business unit lead. It feels like it's 5 years, not 10, but it's been a fun journey. I think we will talk about that tonight a bit more.
Mm-hmm. And Stuart?
I don't like answering this question because it reveals my age, but I took my first role with team management responsibility in 2002, obviously outside of Evolution. But in between that time, I haven't always held team management positions. My first position in Evolution, for example, I wasn't a people manager. So there's been a little bit of a mix, but the majority of that time I've had some level of team management responsibility.
Okay, thank you. And how do you personally define what is the good leader for you?
Go ahead.
So we're starting with the $1 million question, aren't we?
Yes.
It can only get easier from here. Well, first of all, I think it is really difficult to define. I think it can be quite individual as well. It can be something that people have different opinions on, different views. As a good leader, I think you need to be somebody who can adapt to that and can recognize the kind of leadership that people within your team might need to have. It's also very situational. I think, what makes a good leader today might not make a good leader tomorrow if the circumstances change. Certainly in crisis situations, the the ability of a leader to adapt and to step up and kind of change the way that they might respond in a business as usual situation to a crisis situation is really important. So for me, it's about being very dynamic, being very open to change and new possibilities. Just some of those things. I won't steal all the answers. I'll let somebody else have a go as well, obviously.
Okay.
It felt like he was about to steal all of the right answers. But I completely agree with what Stuart said. In my mind, there is no one defined formula for this. You have to be able to adapt to situations, to different types of teams and different types of roles as well within the team, and the times. Because we were discussing previously before we started the session about the COVID times and like the new normals, and you had to be a different kind of leader back then. So it's always changing and adapting and kind of reevaluating the situation over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Kasper?
If somebody asks me, can you give an example of a good leader, I somehow tend to switch to music, to orchestra, and to conductors, those who have to, let's say, manage or lead 30, 50 people. And I'm always amazed looking at them, how well they know the piece, how precise they are pointing out a specific group or instrument to be played. How engaged they are. Have you ever seen a board conductor in choir or an orchestra? I haven't. So these are like role models for me. Of course, in real life, it's not a concert every day. It's routine, it's operations, it's tough times, it's fun times. But that's one thing. If I can elaborate, I don't know how much I will answer on the other questions, but if I can elaborate, I think. To me, leader splits in two parts. One is how good I understand the business and how good do I see a vision of the business, and the second part is about people. It's not second. It's you put people first, you put business first. It changes, but in each of these, you should have a specific skills, knowledge, experience to be a good leader. Nobody is perfect leader, so everybody becomes better. But at some point, you can feel that, okay, I'm dealing with that situation. I know what to do in this situation. And to get to this point, you need to have both a business acumen, so understanding what industry you're in, what drives the company and so on, and on the people side, how do your people feel? What can you give them? How can you develop and so on and so on. That's my answer.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Oh, this is so hard to come after you guys. Not an easy task. But I will completely agree with what the colleagues said, that there is no template, basically, how to be a great leader. There are so many things you need to adapt, change yourself, learn, understand. And I have thought a few times in my career already, I have reached a decent point. And then the first COVID comes. You have this crisis management, completely different leadership. Okay, we passed COVID, and I'm thinking, what else can come, right? What kind of a change still can come? And bam, I accepted the challenge to be in Lithuania. And you go there, you have completely different challenges as a leader, a different mentality. People are different, and you are once again out of the comfort zone. And I think one of the great traits of a leader is to go through these changes and adapt. Because if you say that you're a great leader by just doing, one thing for 20 years, I would disagree about this. However, there are some qualities you can always work on, right? It's learning, understanding. And one very important part, at least for me, is to sell the vision to your people. And for that, you need, as Kasper's mentioned, the business acumen, right? You need to understand the business. Because we are in a business where we all the time change, all the time move forward, 365 days a year and 24 hours a day. So we need to sell the vision to our guys. We need our teams behind us. And if our leaders cannot do that, what can we expect from our teams? And in short, it's like living through everything what happens and understanding. And you need to be this bridge which connects two worlds, the teams and the business needs and the management vision. And it's not an easy one, but there's a bit of everything. It's, like boiling a soup. It's never fully ready. You always can add something, a bit of sausage, a bit of this. I think, like when we will define a perfect leader, we will solve all the problems in the world.
Definitely. Okay, thank you for that. And as I heard, thank you, Kaspers, for idea to conductor to have the conductor on some podcast and to ask him or she how she deals with all this team together. And as I heard from you, that adaptivity is the main thing of leadership. One of things what certainly goes out. And can you tell me, is this comes with experience? Go through all these times, COVID times, and that. Or you can specifically train that skill to be adaptive, or you need some, maybe it's come from nature, just I'm an adaptive person, for example.
That is a great question. And again, there is no single right answer to that. It's individual. Some people are more adaptive by nature. They are fine with changes and with the changing environments, and some are not. I think you can train to be okay with changes and to see them in a positive light. That's to say, you don't have to be that way at the very beginning, at the first day. You can learn these things, and you can adapt to these things, to these changes as well. So maybe it's a fluff answer, but it goes both ways. You can train to be that way, and you can be naturally adaptive. That's in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Agreement?
So, if I may continue on this, very nice statement. Really love that. For me, it's like, where are you going with all this? So, right, I have been through a lot of recruitments, hiring a lot of people, and I have never heard an answer. I'm not flexible. I'm not able to, adapt to changes. I have never heard this from people. So naturally, somehow think that we are quite okay with adapting to the situations, what are coming, right? But the real test comes from actually experiencing these changes, and then we see how people react to those, and you have seen the calmest person, and you see nothing can struck this person, but then something happens and the person is shaking and cannot do that. And here I think something is what comes naturally to you, and there are a lot of things which you can learn by just experiencing, right? We were all very stressed when we took the driver's course, right? We were quite stressed, the first time on the street. And now we are just thinking. Sometimes we are just in a snap at home and we don't even know what happened on the road. So to many things, you need to experience them to understand. And once you understand what you can expect, then you can actually build up for that. I think there's some sort of a level given naturally.
Yeah, can I just add one thing to that? There is no better place to learn to be adaptive and to learn to accept change than evolution, because things are changing all the time, every day, and you must be okay with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as we've alluded to so far, it's quite difficult to train for the unexpected, and I think that's what we're talking about a lot here, is that you have to be ready to react and respond to things that aren't foreseen. So I think with experience you gain the confidence to be able to perform well in those situations. So I think that's where experience is key. I think overconfidence with under-experience can be a pitfall. So if you're overconfident in your abilities and don't recognize the possibility of failure, then that can cause problems. So even if you're a naturally confident person, I think experience to maybe just re-level your own confidence is where that kind of sweet spot hits. I'm sure it comes easier for some people than others. I'm sure there is a natural ability to it, and as we just said, in an environment where you're facing constant change and it's very dynamic, you quite quickly learn, whether you're cut out for this or not. So, yeah, it's definitely a mixture of both, but I think experience is really vital, I think, when it comes to good leadership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kaspar?
Okay, I love the saying which says, I love to happen to things, not to things happen to me. So for the leader, it is good to drive the change, but it's not always possible. As Stuart, you mentioned, there are some unexpected changes, or it's business or worldwide pandemic, and you name them. But I would love to think that I spend more time planning for the change than responding to the change. Even though we don't know I don't know, some specific planning, table planning for the next year, right? It may come as a surprise, but we do our exercise, we be ready for that, and then it's much easier. If it's come unexpected, then we are kind of exposed to the question. And for that piece, I think that our after work exercises, what do we engage in our private life, hobbies, some do some extremes sports, just to sharpen the mind. If something unexpected comes, that you have prepared for it. That would be my thinking around it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and let's move on. And I have one more question about, the great leaders in the world may say that leadership is a lonely thing to do. That the higher you go, the lonelier you became. And do you agree with that? And do you experience, maybe in your experience, something like that, and how you deal with that?
I did experience that, and I honestly didn't expect it. I kind of knew that it would be a lonely journey, but I didn't really plan for it and prepare for it. It was a bit sad to be kind of not left out, but you are all of a sudden different, and you are not one of the group anymore. And it can be traumatic, maybe a bit, but that's also one of the things that you have to get used to, and you have to be fine with. You have to be fine with sometimes being alone and making decisions all by yourself, and being fine with them, not being able to check in with somebody. Is this okay? Is that okay? Am I doing the right thing? You have to be brave. And it takes some level of bravery, in my mind, to be alone and to make the decisions alone. So it's not a risk that you're taking, but it's a challenge. Thank you.
I don't think I've really kind of felt lonely. I can imagine that if you're in a position where you're maybe a member of a team and then you become a person of responsibility and authority within that team, that can be quite disconnecting, that you're kind of one of the gang, and then all of a sudden you're making decisions which affect these people, and that could be difficult to transition into. And I've never really done that, so I've never experienced that. And I also think the kind of archetype of a manager being sat in their office and being on the top floor and being this kind of unseen point of authority doesn't really translate to reality anymore. We all work in open plan offices. We all have a much more kind of open and more communicative style of management, I think, in general. So I think things are shifting in a way which means that it doesn't have to be quite as lonely as maybe it once was. But I can totally understand and respect that it might feel like that for some people, and it can be something that you have to make difficult decisions that affect other people. You are supposed to have the answers, and if you're in a situation where maybe you don't have enough support around you, I think it's important to keep an eye on that and just check in with yourself. Yep.
I agree with you, Stuart. I think in the modern times that we're living, my team are my colleagues. That's how I feel, and that's definitely not a lonely feeling for me. Being every day at work, there are a lot of colleagues in Evolution. that's a lot, the only thing if I think about loneliness as a leader is when I search my way, because as nobody will tell me what to do next in my life. It's in Evolution, outside, it's sports, music, whatever it is. That's where we are on our own, thinking, where do I want to get? What do I need to learn? And I'm not talking about the courses that you can search and find. That piece is like, yes, we build our own way. But as a team, even management support, it's also very important in tough times. And we always had management support, so there's always a kind of a teamwork. So in Evolution, I would say no, I don't feel it's a lonely route as a manager here, as leader.
Yeah, Renis?
Yeah, I can only agree with Kaspars, because I guess we are from operations, and it's never lonely here. But I think there's a perspective for this, that when you shift, as Stu mentioned, that's right, from a body you become someone who is making their life different, right? And it's not a very pleasant feeling at the start if you don't have the experience. and then it's, you know, like all of a sudden you see you are removed from some sort of a chat and you're like, hey, you know, like I still want to be here. So that is like a real experience, but it's maybe not a loneliness, and you understand how to accept that. And I guess the only time I have ever felt a bit lonely was when I first moved to Lithuania, because then it is completely different. You know, in Latvia you're working in one of the main offices and you have these layers of people coming in, you have managers, and there all of a sudden you're alone, and you are the guy who everyone sees and asks, hey, what do we do now? How do we do here? And all of a sudden, damn, I need to make all these decisions for the people, you know, and just like you have all the scope, all the studio for you, and that's what Kaspars mentioned. You are like finding your way there. So, but then yet again, I was not lonely. It was just a shift I needed to adapt to. So it's not some sort of loneliness. It's just like you are so used to people around you that you sometimes don't fully value them being right next to you. And if there is some certain point, then yeah, like I have never fully felt lonely, but I have felt the shifting, you know, that you just change a bit, you know, like environment, and you see, oh, no chats anymore. Okay, that's interesting, right? So I'm not going to the party on Friday with the guys. Okay. But other than that, it's hard to be lonely, you know. Like if you feel lonely, you should come to work for us, you know. Like we will make you unlonely.
Okay, thank you. And here in Evolution, we have one training from Buddy to Manager. You all know it's designed specially for new managers who just step in their role. And on the first day of this training, we have a self-assessment exercise, I would say, in the form of pair interviews. And there is many questions what they ask, and they are truly answer on that in the very beginning of their way. And I would like you also to give answers to some of these questions, not all. And let's see what the answers, because you're already a manager for some time, you're very mature, but let's see how this beginning steps comes in, yeah? First question, what would you like to hear from team members say about behind your back?
Behind the back.
Yeah, about you. But
somehow you're all like looking at me, as I do have an experience. But no, like I have always told to the guys, and as one of the facilitators for the course, it's very interesting just to see what people are typing, because they are so pushed outside of the comfort zone. Because if someone is like talking behind the back, it's not good, right? And then they are very, very sneaky with the answers, like I'm now trying to be. But the thing I'm always have said, so it should, you know, like I would love to hear like an honest things about me, good or bad, but honest. So I can accept the, you know, criticism, a feedback about certain things, but I love that is honest. If I need to improve somewhere, so if you talk behind my back, I want that it is honest. So if you don't have all the info, I will give you all the info. But I really respect honesty, good or bad, but that makes me better in a long run. So for me, I'm type of a person, you know, like you can talk whatever you want, right? So I don't have, of course we have some, you know, personal needs, and we love that people are talking good about us behind our backs. But for me, the biggest thing is that to hear an honest response about certain things, situations, and because this is the only way how we can improve, actually. This is my take on this. So there's like, I can expect everything from people, right? That is what makes us interesting in some sort of a degree.
Okay, I will challenge you a little bit about
Sure
this
thing.
honesty, like under your back when they are going, or you want them to come into your office and said some honest things about you, you know, or anything I feel about you, something like...
It's both.
Both?
It's both. Like I really respect honesty, and longer I work as a manager, more I value the honesty. And then I tell to people, comments, you can straight away tell me, as harsh as it may be, and my idea is to create a culture where, for example, my team or the people around me, they don't need this talking behind back, because they know that they can actually come to me, and then of course it is inevitable, right, that they will talk something behind your back. But I want to reduce that to the minimum by giving everything from my side that they can come and talk and express, and to reduce this. So as a human being, I will respond. I only want that they speak good, right? But then we come to the real world when it is not like that. So then my biggest idea is to create environment where they don't need to talk behind the back, right? So then they come straight away to me, and then we discuss, and then this can only happen if you work with your team, with your people a lot. So I hope I was able to elaborate a bit more.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I agree with him completely. What I've been trying to do is build an environment where people feel safe to share their honest opinions, so they wouldn't have to do this talking behind somebody's back. And I hope I've succeeded in that. But if I have to say something that I would want to hear people saying behind my back is I trust her and I want to be on her team.
Nice, thank you.
Yeah, I think we've taken quite a negative view of the question in that, things spoken behind the back, are always negative. But if it's more about just what we think, what would we want our employees to think of us as leaders? I think one of the main things for me, because I'm managing managers, I want to hear them say that I give them confidence in their own leadership abilities as well. So, and that can be through, allowing them the room to fail, whether it's, in specific situations or, in general. But I think it's my job as a leader to give them the confidence in their leadership skills, I think. So that's kind of what I'd want to be known as a leader, I think. So if I'm taking a positive view of the question, that's what I want people to say about me.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's stay positive this evening. Out of all things that I would like my team to talk about me when I don't hear is, okay, this is crazy what we're gonna do, but I understand why. That's what I spend all my efforts to my closest team, that when we do big changes, sometimes painful changes, sometimes very good changes, is the rationale, so that we are fully, we spend a lot of time discussing hours, but then when we leave the room, if somebody had a question or an argument that was not raised, I assume it's not existing, right? So, and I can't do this to all of the people in my organization, there are more than 2,000, but I hope that this also passes forward to the team management when operation managers make a decision, then they explain, spend some time, ask questions, deal with doubts. Of course, there's any changes, like it's always the same curve, right? But yeah, that will be one of the main things I would love if I succeed at.
I think that's a really nice point, that, this seems crazy, or this seems difficult, this seems challenging, maybe I don't agree with it, but they've still got faith in your decision. They can understand and see, that this is what we're going to do, and they get behind it, even if they might have doubts. I think that's a really cool one. I'll steal that. Thanks, Kasper.
Yeah, you can keep your mics. Next question from this assessment is, what people might have influenced the way you manage others and how? Kasper, maybe you.
Well, that's a very wide question, and I can go many ways, but what I would like to talk about my personal values here. And if Rein has been with me a long time already, what I want people to see, that there are some lines that we cannot cross. There are some rules that we must obey, and that's what these like positive rules, obviously, right? So the values that I share, I hope they resonate, and people say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, like, not cheating on numbers makes sense, right? Although it's so easy, but we never do that. So we are transparent and honest here. So probably that's one of the answers I could give is if within my organization or wider, if people can learn some good values of life, not only business, then that's a great success for me. I hope I answered correctly the question, or
There is
at
no
least
correct
or at least the right direction that you wanted us to.
Okay,
Could you
thank
just repeat the question for me, please?
Yeah. What people might have influenced the way you manage others and how?
I think a lot of the influence that I've had on the way that I've developed my management style or my leadership style, it's probably more from the bad experiences I've had than the positive ones. I think bad managers have shaped my management style more than good managers to some extent. I remember my first job post-university, so my first real job, I had one of the worst managers in the world. And for me, the worst manager in the world is somebody, if they don't know the answer to your question, they are unable to admit that and will simply act with aggression and then turn the failure upon yourself. You should know this. Why don't you know? Go and find out for yourself. Of course I know. I'm in charge around here. You should know as well. Go and find out. And that was, I mean, I stayed with that company for 9 years, so it didn't scar me that much. But I think learning in that environment and seeing what a bad manager was so early on in my career, it was actually quite a valuable experience. So I think seeing the wrong way to do it has been as much an influence on me as good managers have, if not more, I think. Yeah.
Thanks.
I agree with what Stuart said. Again, the good experiences and the bad experiences with the people who've managed me are what have shaped the way I manage people now. I've been very, very fortunate to have great managers here and before Evolution as well. So I haven't been able to learn a lot from the bad experiences, but there are some things, like for example, don't be late with to one-on-ones you've booked yourself with your direct report. You never do that. That's something that just comes off as disrespectful, and just don't. But I've had great experiences from managers who see you as a person, who understand that you have a life outside of work, who understand that you are a person with interests and with family things, and a person who needs to rest and so on. So being seen as a human being, as funny as it sounds, is very important, and you can learn that from great managers. And to go even further back and to allow myself to be a bit vulnerable, I've also learned a lot from my parents, because that's where things kind of start from. That's where you see the first authoritative figure in your life, with your parents. So that is also something that shaped who I am as a leader, I think.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, very nice one. What I really love about the parents, because I completely agree. That's the first figure in your life. You start to understand how life works, right? That there are some yeses and there are some no's and there are some consequences, right? And which translates to the later life as well. And I have a really good example, like with you, Kaspers, by the way. Most probably don't remember. It's such a tiny thing, but what is sticking in my mind for 5 years ago? Yeah, it's crazy, 5 years. Because you mentioned, right? So to not be late for the meetings you book on your own. So I remember the first week, the second day, Kaspers has selected me as acting operations manager. And we have a meeting, a presentation for the QBR, Quarterly Business Review, with Olesya, Ivanov, who was our chief operating officer back there. And we need this meeting to start at 9 sharp, Monday, Tuesday, I don't remember, but we need to be, and like things happen. I'm usually at work in time, like never late, but this day, like I remember, there is some sort of a car jam in Jugla, and I'm, just like squeaking through the lane just to get, and obviously I'm late, right? So the first real meeting, you have just been selected, and I thought, I didn't want to go into the work, right? And I remember I go to the Queen meeting room, to the conference room, everyone's always in there. And I remember Kaspers, after the meeting, I survived, still here, right? Not fired, terminated. I remember Kaspers said, there are some meetings you should not be late. And I still remember where the conversation happened, and since that, I have been late a few times, okay, but there are some meetings. Like if I would have a meeting now with with the C level coming in, right, at 9, I will be at work at 8. You know, like just to be sure. Don't make the last moment. So, and I think the experience is shaped as great managers as well, and to learn from your own mistakes as well. So it's not necessarily. And one of the greatest things I have learned as well from Kaspars and other managers around me, to admit your own mistakes. Because, for example, with Kaspars, we have a relationship like, I can tell Kaspars, hey, you are wrong here because of the numbers and this. And I have never experienced a moment when it's like, no, you are completely wrong. So this is what I have learned as well. And as Kaspars was my first big hiring manager, right? I learned this in the very early days that you should talk about, you know, like, this is a both-way street. It's not one direction, that I can only make mistakes, right? That your subordinates can make mistakes. So I think we learn from the managers, good and bad, you know, like equally. And we all know what kind of a manager we don't want to be, right? And then maybe it's even harder to answer what kind of a manager we want to be. But it's always easy to answer like, I don't want to be this person because I have this experience, right? So there are some things you straight away drop. But yeah, about the meetings, Kaspar, it's such a tiny detail what I remember. I remember the way, maybe even the shirt you were wearing, you know, because I thought it's, you know, that's it, you know, like I'm gone, you know, like there's no point even coming. But yeah, that's like the good and bad experience.
Okay, I think it's very nice because I have a question about influence, and Kaspar, you are influence Rainis in such a way. As a managers, we are influence our people in every day with some small things, values, as you mentioned, your role modeling, and that's the very great thing. Okay, I have one more question from assessment, the last one, and you need to complete the sentence. I hope in one word, maybe. Let's challenge us. Like, I will read out the sentence and you need to just say one word. I wouldn't have became a manager today if it wasn't for...
I choose between two. All right, let's... I'll choose the honest answer. I think it was luck. I got lucky. It was a coincidence. Then I searched for the job and I saw this position open in Evolution, and then it took the courage and the change and the risk and so on, different things. But the first one, I think, was lucky. I was really lucky to get into this company, which changed my life. Simple as that. Thank you.
Stuart?
No, you stole my answer. That's what I was going to say. Originally, I was going to say bad luck as a bit of a joke, but yeah, I fell into a management position. It's not really what I wanted to do. I initially focused on becoming technical and becoming a technical expert. Maybe it was my lack of ability in my chosen field that meant I had to find an alternative path. But yeah, I was just selected and given this responsibility without ever really thinking that that's where I would end up going further in my career. So I can't give a better answer than luck. I'm sorry about that. That's, yeah. Hopefully you two can do better.
Oh, no pressure at all, I guess. No pressure at all. So the best words are already used. With what we are left?
Lucky twice.
Lucky twice. Lucky 3 and 4?
No, I would say, just to be a bit different, I would say if it wasn't for my curiosity. Because I've always tried to understand what's going on here and why is it like this and why is this not working and why are we doing it this way. So I've never been after a managerial position. That was never ever my goal. I was just naturally curious. I wanted to figure out why is it this way and how can we make it better. And fortunately for me, somebody saw that and kind of appreciated it.
Great.
Even harder now. But I will use the opposite of luck. I would say accident. And I will elaborate why. Because before Evolution, right, so I had a very decent job. I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineer, as far as it can get from a manager, right? So, and especially in operations, so it's completely different direction. And I was working for one of our Latvian phone providers, right? And I was like studying and combining and everything. And all of a sudden, management changed. And I was not able to combine anymore. So by this accident that the management changed, and then I was like forced out of that place because I was working in a logistics department as a specialist for a completely, you know, something which is relevant towards my role, my profession, apologies. So, and then I would say that is an accident. And I was thinking, you know, like I need to graduate. That would be a good thing. And I thought, oh, there's evolution, you know, like I will work 3 months, you know, graduate, and then let's check. I would say longest 3 months in my life, you know, like still continuing. So accident, right? It would not happen by this, you know, random accident that there's a management change and I'm not able to go to university and then you end up here. And then, of course, the luck comes in and curiosity. I really love the word curiosity and that someone actually appreciate like you as a person. So for me, it's accident, like as random as it might sound.
Great. Thank you very much for this self-reflection. And I would like to ask, is the self-reflection and leadership, is it goes together? Is it important in leadership? And do you use them, or how it influences your decisions as a leader?
Yes, it does. It does influence. By self-reflection, we can understand many different things. What I understand is to look on my own actions, my own emotions, my own decisions, and trying to analyze what is this guy doing, some of the side. With the help of others, very often I get feedback, especially from my previous manager. I received a lot of feedback. So, and at the first, even if this feedback is critical, meaning not something that I expected of me, time goes by and it proves that it's true. And yes, so if I have to give an example of self-reflection, as I started as head of one department, it is very often that I wanted to defend my department needs. That's because that's what I need is the most important. My department is the most important in evolution. That's absolutely the truth. All the other departments only follows. And this makes things more complicated. And when we had some big concerns or issues, then my previous manager, Alessia, also said, okay, but you look from a customer perspective. Just give away your ambitions, your needs, your department. Look like, why don't you look at the ultimate goal, what our clients need in this case? It shifted, it shifted the way I make decisions, the way I go into the meetings, argue with colleagues, and so on. That's one example, but there were more also on the personal side of me. So definitely in these 9 years, I've changed my personality. I don't know, like to 720 degrees, two times. So yes, it's important for the leadership, self-reflect from the feedback, from your own learnings. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Praise?
Yeah, I completely agree with Kasper on this. Without reflection, there is no growth for you as a manager as well. And I think, like you can jump in a lot of wrong places if you are not reflecting on the things you have done. And it's actually like a lot of listening as well. And you need to listen and you need to understand what is being said to you. And then I would say for every great leader, there is a leader as well. And that we sometimes forget, right? That there are people who are giving advices, right? Even to like the C level, they have mentors, they have advisors, right? It's not that they are alone, and we all do make mistakes, and so I can share just like a very quick story. When I first went to Lithuania, I thought I know everything, right? So I have this great structure built in Latvia, which we can replicate, and we will be successful. There is no doubt, ambitions, everything. Those ran, like in front of everything. So meaning that I needed to once again pause. I understood, hey, this is not going to work. And sometimes the hardest is to tell to yourself, this won't work, right? And you had this grand assumption and everything, and that at one point in my career was the hardest, to tell yourself that this is not going to do. Just forget it. Just let's start over. It's not maybe, like the bad idea, but the way how we will do it, this is not it. And this is the hardest sometimes for us, just to completely understand that, okay, we thought completely wrong. And the greatest example is Lithuania. filled with ambitions, filled with everything. Go there, let's do this. We have a model built, like it works in Latvia, and then you have the reality kick. And then I had a choice to push the thing with what is not working by the very dumb belief that this is going to work, just by being very stubborn, or completely say, yeah, this is my screw up, right? So we need to completely change the way how we are jumping into this. So, and I think that's like, without reflection we cannot become better. So and hopefully after these like reflections we are not making the same mistake twice, because I believe we all can make mistakes, but if you start to jump into one place all the time and you cannot get out of there, so then you need to work a bit on yourself.
Thanks. Paula?
This is a question with an obvious right answer, because imagine if I went and said, no, don't reflect, don't ever reflect, don't change. Like the first day you come into the job, you have the right answer, don't ever change anything. Of course you need to reflect on who you are and what decisions you've made, and how you communicated these decisions, and kind of maybe changes and things we've kept mentioning over and over again in this conversation here. But to be able to reflect to your actions and your decisions and your style, you need to build an environment where people can actually give you feedback, and where they feel safe to give you that feedback. Because same with, you cannot know what you don't know. Like if somebody asks you a question, please tell me what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And it's the same thing with reflecting to your mistakes. You can't really reflect on your mistakes if you don't know that you made them. So you need somebody who you can trust to share and to tell you, this is not okay. This was a mistake. And you need to be able, and you need to be okay with receiving that feedback as well.
Thank you.
Well, obviously, I agree 100% with what everybody else has said. But I also think it's important, self-reflection, to help you build empathy as well for your team members. If you can reflect on situations and understand the emotions you were going through, to be able to emphasize with people when they're in similar situations, I think is really important. Again, key to kind of being a good leader. Spoke earlier about a lot of my influencing coming from bad managers, and that's really kind of ties in as well, is that I know how I felt when I received that response from my manager. Of course I know, but you should know, go and find out, that that kind of thing. And that wasn't positive. So I never ever wanted to be like that, because I could empathize with the difficult situations my employees might find themselves in, that they don't have the right answer, they don't know where to turn. So being supportive in those situations, because I can reflect on my own experiences, I think is really important.
And you already mentioned the feedback. No, to have this reflection, you need the feedback. And my next question is about team, how you get the feedback from your team, how you collect or how you address it. Can you share?
There is a formal ways of collecting feedback. We have Gallup survey and so on. I think it's important, especially if it's anonymous. But that's definitely not the main source. I hope I get my feedback. Because what I do is I meet my team often. Twice a week it's minimum, and then we sit together, and then so I beg my team to not wait to put some number in 9 months in a Gallup, but to tell me that in advance, because then we can fix it quicker. Obviously it depends on actions taken on this feedback. If for once, twice, third time, Reinis, I'm not acting on feedback you gave, you will say, what's the point, right? So it's just being self-aware, and also encouraging team to don't keep it with you, come up with that. But I don't measure, I don't know, and I don't survey our meetings yet. I know that we do in when it becomes to the larger audience, when it's important, right? You can't always ask 4 people exactly what they think. If it becomes more than 20, 30, 40 people in a meeting, you need like a, hey, click this link, just tell us 1 to 5, how do you feel afterwards, and that. But honestly, as an individual, as a manager or as a leader, I keep repeating to my team, tell me if something is wrong. As well as I never say, if something is wrong with behavior or whatever of my team, I will never keep it till the mid-year discussion or the yearly performance review. Never. I will tell it straight away, call in and say, okay, this shouldn't be done according to my values and so on and so on. And my team knows that. So the way I work with them, I also expect and hope to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, Stuart?
Yeah, like Casper's, I don't think there's a lot of kind of formal, organized feedback that we do in my teams. I like it to happen as organically as possible. I think if you kind of force feedback a little bit too much, it kind of devalues it somewhat. If somebody's forced to give an answer on a particular question that they might not really have an opinion on, but they feel pressured into it, that can have issues with it. So again, we're talking about leadership qualities. Maybe one of the qualities of a good leader is that they're able to kind of identify these situations where maybe there's something that somebody wants to say. If you're in a one-to-one conversation, you can tell by their mood or by the way they're speaking to you, something's wrong here, and you can then encourage that that information to come out during that conversation. So I do like it to be organic in that sense, that it's looking for the signs that maybe something's not right. So let's explore that, give them the confidence to speak up, and obviously kind of regular conversations with your team members is essential to do that. But yeah, as organically as possible is my broad answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I agree. That's the theme of this conversation here. The four people agreeing to what the last one has said. But in all seriousness, same as the guys, the feedback is not very official. It's not a form that you fill in and evaluate a meeting or whatever from a scale from 1 to 5. But just to add a bit more to what they said already, my kind of not trick, but a regular thing that we do is the one-on-ones with everybody in the team are scheduled, and they are kept for, I don't know, a year in advance. So if you have something to say, you will have a time slot to share it with your manager. You don't have to be proactive and start a conversation with them, because that there will be a slot where you can say what you want to say, and you don't have to make that brave step and let's have a conversation. I have something to share with you. You don't have to do that. You will have a slot where you can do that. So that's one thing that I can share.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah, about the feedback, I believe it's more about the building the culture. For example, we need to build a culture to get this free environment, right, where your guys are approaching you in an organic way, right? It's not pushed, and I have seen that next Tuesday you have a placeholder for a feedback session, and when I see that, I'm already trembling, so because my fair understanding is that the feedback should come naturally. We need to, how can we build a culture of actually trusting is to have these one-to-one conversations with our employees and to actually enable these nice relationships where they feel safe, right? That they can give feedback, that we kind of need to show what kind of people we are. And this I experienced in Lithuania, where I went from Latvia, and we have this very established, connection with people, right? That they can come and go, and then you, for the first 3 weeks, you understand that people are not sharing anything. They are just, checking you like a cat, what kind of a person you are, right? Should I, hiss at you, or should I, just jump, and say everything what I think? So, and then I understood that, it's your work as a manager, as a leader, to build this culture when this happens naturally, not in a pushed way. And then, as I said, I have seen that you have a feedback session next Tuesday, and I'm thinking what should I prepare, right? and the thing I really respect is what Casper said, that we don't need to wait 3 months for this one specific Gallup meeting when we are analyzing something to say, hey, listen, on February 23, right, you had this conversation which made someone feel bad, or you overstepped the boundaries. We should not wait, right? So that's about the feedback.
And I have had manager who did it, and I will never do like you said, right? Learning from the bad examples in life, when somebody digs up exact date and sentences you said, and it's 6-7 months ago, and then you go all right, why are you keeping it till now? Yeah.
that is something like seen, and once again, it's like going to like few topics back that you know like you just know what what you don't want to do as well, right? What you have seen and you have learned from, like this is not very, you know, like if it feels very awkward for me, probably it feels a bit awkward for other people as well. So yeah, that's something like as you said, everyone, you know, the same answer and everything, right? So there's super important part of our daily life.
Oh, thank you for sharing your insights of how you do that. And in Evolution, we have defined 7 expectations from our leaders. I hope you all know them. And they start with I build relationships, I lead change, I inspire others, and so on. And my main question is, like, it starts with I, like I need to know that I do these things, but how to measure it? How would I know that I really do, or I just think I'm good at building relationships, but there is other says behind my back, no, this girl, no, insane. She's not building relationships. What was your thoughts about that? How to measure this?
You don't.
Hmm?
You don't measure that. That's my opinion. Measurement can apply to some parts of it. And I went through all the 7 principles before this meeting, and yes, I don't think we should measure everything, and I'm definitely not measuring it all. There are some things that we do, some we don't. I will not go into details. For me, the goal was to understand all these 7 principles, put them in my head, and try to act based on them. That's how I check myself. Did I communicate clearly? Was I leading the change, or the change was leading us? All right. And do I develop others? How often? Reinis had a great development, right, for 2 years in Lithuania. And that's what I keep asking myself. But I don't have Excel with next assignment for my team. No, it should come natural. Definitely, we should reflect and go through. At least I do in my head. Through these principles, am I following them? Am I not? But not. I wouldn't say I'm measuring them. No.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
No worries. Okay. Yeah. Other opinions?
It could be a surprise, but I follow what Kaspars is saying here, right? And I don't need anything on Monday, Kaspars. No day offs, but yeah, it's hard to measure, and it's more if you are like following these principles, and it's a lot of reflection, and we have some established tools to actually do that. We have the surveys, we have the Gallup, we have 360 feedback being used. And these are the few things where you can actually go through and maybe jump from a different perspective, but to actually keep, you know, like a track of Excel, you know, like how I'm like, you know, like leading the changes, right? Like, do I evaluate myself 1 to 5 after every change? Most probably no, right? But then I'm checking like, how did I tackle this, and then what can I do better? And it's a bit different way. So sadly no Excel file for me. But I think we have a very established ways how to control with the surveys and everything, and then the way how we analyze the surveys, it's a different topic. But I think we are doing that, but it's not in a pushed way that someone expects that we have, you know, the black notepad with all the things written down and measurements made. I don't know, guys. Maybe you'll share something different.
I don't measure them either. I don't think you can really measure these things, but you can use them to self-reflect. If you don't have these things that I mentioned before, an environment where people give you their honest feedback, you can use that to read through it and do a mental exercise of, am I doing it this way? Am I doing it according to these 7 principles? And where am I lacking? What can I do better? And then maybe you land on one of the principles and you decide, okay, this is where I want to work this time. You work on that, and then you can reflect again and see that you improved. That would be the only way I could ever measure it, because how can you measure I lead change? I led change to a 5 yesterday. What? No.
Okay.
No, I disagree. I have an enormous spreadsheet where I put ticks every time I lead a change. No, I think in terms of direct measurement, you know, as everybody's kind of agreed, it's quite difficult. I mean, they're quite vague in their own right. I mean, you know, I build relationships. Well, what you're measuring, quantity, quality, you know, variation.
Mhm.
You know, I think that they're just principles that we have to kind of keep coming back to, you know, kind of make sure that we're complete as leaders and managers. And I think ultimately, you know, any measurement really has to come from the results of your performance. So, you know,
Mhm.
maybe if you're not performing as you would expect or want to be performing, then going back to those principles and checking them is maybe something that you can utilize. Well, actually, the reason I failed here is because I wasn't building the right relationships. I was far too passive in this situation. I should have been more proactive at going out and, you know, and building relationships with people. So I think they're useful in that sense. But as metrics and KPIs, I think it would be very difficult to tie them down. Yeah, you've really got to kind of, as I say, be indirect in the way that you're measuring the effectiveness of those. Yeah.
Okay, but I will challenge you a little bit because we are a huge organization, and if I may ask you, call the best team leaders, no matter in operations or whatever, you may notice them, and how you recognize them just by intuition. Oh, I like this guy. I like the Rainis. I think he's a good manager. Like, you know how we can recognize these things. Because the team managers, even in operations, let's take operations, because there are many team managers, and there is a very difficult, if we don't have a data, okay, Gallup, you mentioned already, but how would I know that he used these principles even? What is, yeah?
Yeah. So we have other surveys than Gallup as well in operations, because we have to know basically how functions work, and you know, are people satisfied, or what are their needs. So, but too many surveys don't work, because if you again can't act on them, what's the point of asking? Here comes what I think is important is people work with people. I work with Rainis, I work with Alina, Maxims, and Kristaps, and I know they will work with their direct reports, with their teams on their own way. But there is something that we share across all the organization, or the values, and call it intuition, call it professional, I don't know, learnings is. But you can see from how people talk to other people, and that's how far I can observe. And it's not easy in operations, right? It's difficult for me to talk to every team manager on a regular basis, night hours and so on. But that's how we inherit the culture, right? Culture always starts from the head, from our leadership. The way our leaders behave, I behave, my team behaves, and so it goes and goes and goes. It's axiom. It's it's proven. But so it's important to keep an eye that the culture that you build is based on the key values. And I'm repeating these values, that's super important. I want my values to be straightforward to my team. And then we talk with my team, and then say, okay, how do you handle this situation? And they explain that to me. That gives an example how this difficult case with a game presenter, with shuffler, with team manager was handled. And it's easy to spot if something is off. So it's more about this people relationship that cascades down or up through the organization for me.
Okay, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, again, at the risk of kind of giving the same answer as I did previously, I think, we do have KPIs. We do have results that can be looked at to gauge success. Is this person a good team manager? Well, one of the sources you're going to look at to identify that is the performance metrics that they have on their role. And then I think when you are analyzing that a little bit further, whether that's because there is a level of underperformance or even overperformance, that's when those principles become useful. So, okay, what is this person doing that's meaning that they're achieving at this level, whether it be lower or higher than expected, and either lack of use or, a lack of awareness even of these principles that we're supposed to have might be a factor there. And then it becomes a little bit more anecdotal. Well, tell me about this situation. What happened there? Oh, well, this happened and this happened. Oh, that's because, you didn't lead that change there, or, you didn't build those relationships. So there's definitely anecdotal evidence, but I think it ultimately still has to be driven by the kind of key business performance metrics that we use within our teams to identify, is that a good team leader or not? A lot of it comes down to just the end results, I think, performance, and then working backwards from there to analyse.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
I would say that to recognize a great leader, you need to look at three things basically. You need to look at the team's KPIs. You
Mhm.
need to look at the Gallup or any other survey results to kind of get a gauge of how the team is actually feeling. Because you could have great KPIs with a very, very sad and depressed team. That could happen.
Mhm.
But you need to look at these two things together. And the third thing that I would look at is the feedback of this specific manager from teams around the team that they manage, from teams above, teams below, and teams on the other either side, to see how this person works together with other teams. And these 7 principles, they are absolutely correct, but these principles are things that you as a great leader should feel and do naturally. They are just put down on paper for somebody to read what it should be. But if you are a natural great leader, you should, in my mind, feel them as natural and kind of act according to them either way, even if they weren't put down on paper.
Mhm. Okay, thanks.
Exactly, cannot agree more. And then all those 7 things are actually linked to some hard KPIs, maybe not in all departments, but let's say I build relationships, right? So if we are talking about the team management, we can connect this to a turnover, right? How many employees left your team? And then here, for example, we are talking more about game presenters. It is more relevant, but still like then we can ask, did he build relationships with the team? So we can translate this. But I completely agree that we feel these things, right? And then a lot of them translate to those hard metrics we are talking as well. And to actually, it's, like it's a connection. If they don't have something from this, it converts to this issue and actually it pops out elsewhere. So I strongly believe that we don't use terms as the best manager or something like that, right? For us in the form management department, we have the most recognized, for example, where they are working. So for us, I would say it's we have managers who are stronger in this side or in this side, right? One is super great with numbers, and then one is super great in this. So for me, I had a bad turnover this month, right? For another, there's a super good turnover. So it switches, right? So I would not use, the term of best or something like that. We have very, very different specialists, very different managers as well, and that's a beauty of it, so that we have this difference and changes. So it's more of a feel for me, as already colleagues mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much for this. And it is a very hard question about not measure, but how you can think that things are set right for the 7 principles, for example, or all of them are using them, your managers, your direct reports, and how you feel it. And the last thing, we're really finalize our reporting, but I would like you to ask, can you tell one thing for some new team manager or managers in company, what would you advise him? Maybe some advice or things what you want to give.
I've been keeping this from the beginning, and now it's time to tell it. I read it in kindergarten with big letters because small kids read slowly, so it was in big letters. And that's the approach I take myself, and I suggest to all the new leaders that are born every day in Evolution is treat others how you want to be treated yourself. And it's as simple as that. It's it will develop over time, yes, but it gives answer to many questions without learning them before. You just reflect, be empathic, and think, okay, what if I was told to do so? How I would feel in that situation, and that helps many others. Even if it's tough, yes, I would be upset, but I know why. I'm late to the shift. My colleagues suffered because of that. My fault. But do it in the correct way. Communication is the key, right? To get things right. That would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you. Reinis?
So it's a hard one actually. Kaspers, you stole something from me, maybe from the kindergarten, you know, but yeah, maybe read in the same place. But I would say that just like never back down, right? If you want to move forward, and this complements what Kasper said. As long as you treat others right, and you are not giving up on things, on situations, or on ideas, you will do just fine in evolution, right? So because it's super easy to burn yourself. You have some ambitions and everything, you want to conquer the world, and then you have this one setback, maybe which is not very big from a broader perspective, but it is a huge setback for you as a persona, right? And I can only suggest to never back down. Failure do happen. Accept the defeat, and let's start again tomorrow, right? And and if you have this culture of never stopping, then you'll do just fine and be great here. Because we cannot treat what I think is a small failure for you, it can be a huge failure personally, and that's why we should not think that, oh, this is it, I stop. No, we continue. Tomorrow is a new day, new opportunities. Let's redefine the idea and let's push forward. And I completely agree with Kasper said. So that is as well. So treat others like you want to be treated.
I'd say that was that, and I would add from myself, don't be afraid to make mistakes. People make mistakes, it's fine. And also, don't be afraid to ask for advice or to admit that you don't know something. That's fine. It's fine not to know everything, even if you're a manager.
Thank you.
Yeah, slight variation on that theme, but be patient. We said at the beginning, the second or third question, my opinion is that the growth as a leader comes over time and your ability develops over time, and you shouldn't put too much pressure on yourself to be the most amazing manager and leader on your first day. And certainly don't fall into the trap of kind of overcompensating for your lack of experience by really trying hard to establish yourself or being aggressively pushing forward certain ideas to say, I'm here, and putting your stamp of authority. Give it time, let your experience build, settle into who you are as a manager, accept that you'll have to learn what your management style is. Don't go in with any preconceived ideas. But yeah, take your time, don't overthink, just be patient.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your insights, for sharing your experience. And I really believe that it's creates this personal bond, even through the camera, that in evolution, like organization, so big organization, hearing something from our leaders, it makes us more personal, more brave to come and give a feedback or ask for a feedback. And thank you very much for this. And I would like to say huge thanks for everybody who participated this week in trainings, your engagement, and it makes this week really inspiring. Thank you.